So I hope you enjoy. It's a good start to start the conversation. I have a bit of a remark to give. I'm very impressed by the number of the family employee coming to this workshop. Usually they don't. So I realized that speaking about salaries and equity, they are all here. So I have a disclaimer to do. This is about a startup remuneration. We are not a startup, so you will be paid bad. That's fine. No, I'm kidding. So welcome to this workshop. If you want to spread love or even try to disagree, you can. There is an hashtag TF workshop. You are welcome to go on that. And today we will talk about how to pay people, and I think it's a very important topic because at the end of the day, building a startup, it's about getting a team aligned for something bigger than everyone self by itself. And paying people is why people work at the end of the day. So of course, in the startup world, we talk about mission, purpose, blah, 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 but at some point, we all need to pay rent. And at some point, we all need to live. And at some point, we all have people around us that need some bit of money. So finding a way to pay people fairly and equitably, it's hard, especially because for a lot of first-time co-founders, it's a subject that, as an employee, there is two cases. One case, they experience to be paid as an employee, so they will have a very traditional scheme of how they want to pay people, and I'm not sure it's the right one, because there is a big difference between service company, traditional company on one side, and startups on the other side. And also, and that is more and more common, especially, for example, with the startup of the family, you have people that will pay others and never get a salary in their life. We have a lot of very young entrepreneurs that build successful company, and they have no clue of what the negotiation around the salary is because they never been in that room. I can give you a personal example. I never wrote a curriculum in my life. I'm always so embarrassed when people ask me to review their curriculum because I have no idea of what a good curriculum is. And I don't think I ever look at the curriculum of anyone working for me because I will not even know where to start. So that creates also a certain kind of gap. But a bit of context around that. First, I think I have to do a certain number of disclaimers in what I will tell you, because what I will tell you is very specific for a very specific kind of startup. It's not like this is a subject where the inequality of treatment between startups is very high, and the contextual situation of the startup is very complicated. So here I'm talking only about startups that are post-product market fit or that raised a Series A. I'm not talking about startups in seed stage. I'm not talking about startups that are before product market fit. I'm not talking about startups that don't have the means to really build a remuneration policy. And I think that's important because I think you have to understand when you join a startup is that you cannot be an employee for a startup that did not reach product market fit or did not raise a huge amount of money. You can be part of the adventure of a company like that. You can be a kind of a very, very late co-founder. You can be an employee at discount. But being an employee with a salary that is guaranteed, you need at least that people raise a Series A or at least that people achieve product market fit if they don't raise. And even better if you get both. They raise a Series A and get to product market fit. So that is very important because I think the kind of policy you need inside a company before and after product market fit are not the same. So to go a little bit around pre-product market fit policy, I think there is only one rule: pay people as cheap as possible. And that's it. And only take people that are ready to come in this condition. By the way, so many entrepreneurs think that that's a hard time in their life. I wish to be still at the time when people was joining the family for 400 euro a month. It was a blessed time because you never had any doubt about the motivation of the people that was joining at that time, because they really come for the mission alone. And of course, it's a luxury. Of course, everyone cannot be in this situation. Like joining as an employee a company that is before product market fit, it's a real personal luxury. You do that for personal reason. You do that through motivation, through passion, all of that. But you don't do that as a rational career choice. Like if I was to advise anyone, I will tell them as an employee, never ever join a pre-product market fit startup or a startup that did not raise. But that's a rational advice. Thanks God, we do a lot of things not based on rationality. We do things because we like them. We do things because we are passionate about them. But you have to be really clear. And why startup at that stage need to pay as low as possible? They need to pay as low as possible because it's the survive that depend on that. You don't know how long it takes to reach product market fit. So never, never planify. Just manage yourself to try to get as much time as possible until the moment you reach that stage. And so it means that if you bring employee on board, they need to be employees that don't reduce that time frame. You need to have employees that increase the possibility of getting to product market fit and not employees that will reduce your chance to get to this stage. So that's for a certain kind of company. Now, even inside the product market fit club, I'm talking about here about a very, very specific kind of companies. Company that scales and have a chance to become a world leader. And I think one of the issue with the advice we give entrepreneurs is that if you look online and if you try to go in this ID maze of advice and startup suggestion and rules and methodology and blah, 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 I think you should have disclaimer before telling you who you are talking to. For example, recently there is this very weird dude that ping us on Twitter all day long, and we never reply. His name is Business Angel France or something like that. I don't know exactly who that guy is. And he wrote an article about us because we never reply to any ping, so he decided to write an article. And in the article he writes, if you want real advice, ping me, because the family only speak to the winners. Okay, that's a bit of a criticism. I'm very happy of that. So, losers, if you want to go on his side, please go. No, but actually that guy is very confused. What he means, and I will try to translate what he thinks. He wants to say that the kind of company we are trying to build are a minority kind of company. And we agree. Of course, we are talking here about startups that want to build something big. When you want to build something big, you have to increase your level of risk. And what I will give you as a framework on salary is not about maximizing your chance of survival. It's about maximizing your chance of doing something that matters. And of course, that means that only a minority of people can do that. And that means that if the majority of startups apply the advice I will give here, it will put them in a very, very dangerous situation. So, if you are not building something scalable with high margin and a chance to become a monopoly, don't listen to what I will say. Just focus and pay people cheap and try to survive. Because that, in business, you have two ways of succeeding. You can do something very disciplined on the cheap side, or you do something extraordinary on the other side. But never be in the middle or kind of average, because it doesn't work. So, disclaimer apart, we can start the workshop. I think that the most important point when you come down to the question of paying people inside your company is not about the perfect framework, is not about the objectivity of the pay, it's not about finding the kind of absolute truth what everyone will be comfortable about, is more about expressing who you are and making people understand how you want that they act. Understand something. How you pay people is the most simple clue and the most simple view of what the culture of your company is. You want to look at the real culture, not the culture that is communicate. But you want to look at how a company real culture works. Just look about how they pay people. Because there is a direct link between the way they pay people and what they mean on the market. So instead of trying the best to find the best optimization around salary, remuneration, blah, 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 just understand something very simple. Pay, equity, salaries, bonus, all of that are the first expression of what your company is and how your company wants to be treated in the world. So it's a communication thing. Before being a social thing, before being an organizational thing, before being an optimization thing, building a remuneration policy is the best communication you can build. And this communication really makes sense because people get it or don't get it very fast. And I mean, when people know how you pay people, they will very, very directly understand who you are and who you try to be. I will give you a very simple example. For example, at the family, we pay everyone above market rate, whatever they think. Salaries are high here. Why? Because we want to be a leader. Like if you pay people a lot, you tell everyone that you think you are a leader. Of course, it costs more. Of course, it's more dangerous. Of course, so many times I had the feeling that we will miss the salary this month. Actually, I don't know how we pay the salary in 15 days, guys, I'm telling you. No, but the truth is that paying people at high price is a way to tell them that you want people that are at the top. But that have, like, when you do that, there is some invisible message in that. What are the invisible message? First, you don't want average people. If you are average, you will not steal for a long time because you cannot give more than the market rate to someone that doesn't provide the value that is above market rate. Also, what happens when you do that, because your cash burn is high, you need to produce a lot of revenue quickly. So you are not patient. Like, I mean, if the family was a company that was trying to build revenue on 20 years, 30 years, we will pay people lower because we will try to optimize around our survival rate. But if you want to win a market quickly, putting this kind of pressure change the kind of incentive. I will give you a very simple example of philosophy. One of the most successful companies at the family, they decided to get commission out of sales. You know, everyone tells you that salespeople need to be paid by commission. So you know what they did? They took the best sales guy in the company, look at how much he makes in terms of commission plus salary, and they said that's the new minimum salary of every sales. So what happened? First half of the people get fired in 6 months. Yeah, of course. Because when you pay by commission, if someone performs little, you pay him little. If someone performs high, you pay him high. But if you pay everyone high and someone performs little, what happens? You show him the door. Because you don't have any other choice. Because it costs you too much. And what happened for everyone that stay? Their performance triple. Because what happened with the sales? If you tell a sales guy, I will pay you 10% of the revenue you generate, he will be motivated in an ideal world to generate as much as possible, to make as much as possible. But we humans, we don't live in the ideal world. What happens is that some week we are tired. Some week we want to do less. And what happens when you get a commission? You get the responsibility because you can tell yourself, this month I will make less, and I'm fine with that because my commission will be lower, but I will not cost the company, and I'm fine by getting that. But if you are paid as a very high fixed salary, you have no other choice than producing exactly the same result every month because you do a calculation in your head, and you know if you don't, you cost the money to the company, and the incitation is not right. So you see, this example really shows what a culture is about. Here, you have people that tell the people, we are ready to take the risk. We are ready to take the risk of paying you more than what you are worth, not for a long time, But why? Because we want to tell you what is the minimum performance we expect every month. And you see that, I think, if you think about anyone thinking about mechanism design in terms of remuneration, they will always tell you, yeah, if you want to incentivize sales, give them commission. It's true in 80% of the case. But in the 1% exceptional case, it can be really hurting because you put the responsibility of the numbers in the end of the sales. In that system, you just say, I'm here to bargain, I'm here to level up, and so if I'm here to level up, you have to produce at the level of the numbers. So the first thing before defining anything around your remuneration policy is to really define which kind of company you want to be. Do you want to be a follower or leader? Are you producing something new and that is technologically risky? Or are you selling directly and producing revenue right now? Are you here for the long term? Are you here for the short term? Are you here because you want people that are looking for high salary, or are you looking for people that are looking for high equity? Are you here because you want to produce a company that build a product and is kind of the best in terms of product, or are you here to produce a company that get the best product market fit, blah, blah. And by the way, that's why every remuneration policy has to change and live in same time than the company. There is not such a thing as a remuneration policy that don't iterate. When your company grow, and when your company start to get new objective, you have to change the way you pay people for every step. Every step of the life of the company is about thinking about what my company is. Stripe co-founder came a few weeks ago, or 1 week ago, I don't know. I'm so lost in time. Sorry? Last Wednesday. Okay, I have the feeling it's a few months ago. So last Wednesday, he came and he said, every time your company double size in terms of employee, it's a radical new company that you have. I love that sentence. Because I think it's a kind of a good mantra to have, is that every time your number of employees double, you put everything blank and you rebuild everything. Process, remuneration, how things works. Because only, you know, we have this problem in France that I call the engineering spirit, that we learn in engineering school that if you build something that works, it will work forever, and nothing in nature works like that. Everything in nature evolves. Everything changes. There is nothing stable. And because you define something at some point, it doesn't mean that it's the right thing forever. So you have to go on the natural side, and the startup is a living entity. You know, I like to see the startup as a living, independent entity. And at 5 years old, you don't have the same needs than at 10 years old, than at 20, 40, 80 years old. Every age in time, you need a certain new way of life, and it's exactly the same thing for a company. So don't think that building a remuneration policy is about building something forever. It's really building something to go to the next stage of your growth. And that's why one of the best ways to build a company is to have very, very clear KPI from a stage to another. Don't think in terms of timeline. I think the best way to build a remuneration policy is to say, I want to achieve that goal. I want to achieve it as fast as possible. I don't know how long that will take. And to achieve that goal, I'm ready to give that kind of remuneration to the people that will work in this time frame. And from goal to goal, you can redefine the way that what it means to pay people and how you pay people and et cetera, et cetera. And so it's very important that you are very clear about the link between goals and the way you pay people. In terms of philosophy, you also have a very hard choice to do about openness vs being closed and confidential. So there is a very famous company called Buffer that is very widely open. And by the way, you can read their Buffer open salary formula. So Buffer first is a company with a lot of free time. Now, seriously, they have so much time to do this kind of thing, and I think it's important in who they are. I think that's how they build their reputation, their market. It's really linked to who they are. Like, if every company was spending as much time as Buffer documenting what they do, a lot of them will be bankrupt. Buffer is lucky enough to be a SaaS product, talking to startup. Like, every time they do that, they increase their product market fit. So they have this incredible luck to have this as an alignment. And they have this crazy policy of total transparency around salaries. So that's something funny and cultural. First thing, in France, we don't like when someone is paid more than the others. I wanted to show you a video, but of course I was late and I missed my Eurostar and I didn't prepare my slide. I'm sorry. But you can look on my Facebook. I posted a small video about 2 monkeys that are paid unequally. And the 2 monkeys work. So there is one monkey, you give him a cucumber, and he's doing his job right, getting the stone out of the cage, and he's doing it right. And then the other monkey gets a strawberry for the same job. And the monkey takes the cucumber and threw it at the guy and start to complain. So it's a French monkey. And there is this thing that we are living in a country where from beginning, from being a child, we learn about fairness and equity of treatment and equality and blah, blah, blah. So the way most companies manage that is just by not speaking about it. And so they hope that employees will not speak to each other. And of course, employees speak to each other because that's the only thing people do. Because when you are obsessed about equality, the only thing you want to know is if you are a little bit more equal than the others. So what happened is that very often you have a backlash. And it can be about stupid things. For example, this weekend I was speaking about a company and I was telling them, why don't you publish the salary of everyone once and for all? Because every 2 weeks you come and tell me, we have this problem about remuneration, blah, blah, blah. Should we pay the community manager more than the sales manager, but the sales manager is more experienced? I was like, just once and for all, publish the salary of everyone, see who complain, adapt, and then it will be optimized. And you will have done that collectively. And the guy was like so afraid. He told me, like, you know, there is one guy that discovered that he was paid 40 euro less than the others, and he resigned. And I was like, and you are unhappy? Yeah, you are unhappy of that? I mean, it's the best news ever. You have a jerk that resigned. Like, you don't even have to fire him. It's free. Like, you should be happy. And like, if you do that, maybe half of your company will resign, but that's fine, because at least it will be done. And you can build something on a more stable ground. And I think people don't want to face the reality of speaking truth with people. But the problem is that as a founder, your job is to tell what people don't want to hear. Sometime in the history of family, some people open the Dropbox. There is a funny thing at the family, is that in our Dropbox, everyone can look at every file. And so because the salary of everyone is in the Dropbox, including the expense, you can watch. And it's funny because only few people do that. Like, because, you know, in Dropbox, you can see who look at what. And so it's so funny to see that only few people look at it. Because Balthazar and I, we look everything in the Dropbox. We read every single file. We are always surprised that people don't do that. And there is something that makes me laugh a lot, is that sometimes people come and ask us why they are paid less than others. And we always explain. You are paid less because you are more productive or more experienced, or because they generate revenue and you are a cost. So, so one in the others, you should tell them thank you for being here. So, and the funny thing is that never in our history this conversation went bad. And sometimes some people come and say, I'm paid less and I don't understand why. And sometimes we reply, that's true, Actually, we don't know. maybe when you get in, we was paying that level, and another one get in and paid the other level, and because no one never speak out, we did not realize. So let's increase your salary. It's fine. And it's so funny to see how complicated for French people these conversations are. And I can tell you, I'm not French, so I can tell you that very brutally. It's so funny. And I think it comes down to a lot of things. But if as an ecosystem we know that people don't like to talk about money, as a founder, you have the duty to solve that. And so if you are not fine speaking money yourself, just solve the problem once and for all. So here's the truth. The truth is that life is unequal. The truth is that every talent is not irreplaceable, and the truth is that every employee is a product on the market, and the value of this product is one or less different from people to others. So it's not about how much hard you work, because you can work very, very hard and make much less money than a lot of people. You know, we have cleaning ladies that are here every day at 6 a.m. to clean our dust, and they are paid less than everyone in our team. So working hard is not a fucking argument to get a salary. And okay, you can think that that's horrible, blah, blah, blah. Go and do politics. If you are running a company, you have to live up to reality. And the reality in this world is that some people have more value than others. And as a founder, you have to be crystal clear with the people of what their value is. And the salary you give them just represents the value you give them. That's as simple as that. And so the value can start low. By the way, some people can go from a low salary to a high salary. Some people can negotiate well. Some people don't negotiate too well. Some people are paid more than that they should do. And sometimes founders make mistakes. Don't think that any policy is infallible. Like sometimes you pay people and after you realize that you are paying them way too much and because you cannot decrease the salary, sometimes you fire for this kind of reason. But one in the other, at the end, all of that is just emotional and humans. Thinking that you can bring the objectivity to a level where there will be no politics, you dream. And so let's talk about that a minute. I hear more and more often from the entrepreneurial world that the goal is to get out politics out of the picture. So let me tell you something. If you have one kid one day and that kid tried to go to bed 1 hour later by speaking to mom instead of dad, that's called politics. And that starts at 3 years old. So if at 3 years old there is a political instinct, imagine 25 years later. Like thinking that you can get out the politics from human is not respecting why we are human. We are human because we are political animals. We are humans because we love to do this kind of shit. We love to get things that are not fair or ungranted or blah, blah, blah. And doing that and managing that is your job as a co-founder. I'm not saying that your company should become 100% politic. Of course, if that happens, you are dead. Because if you spend more time doing politics than working, you go to the government, they pay well for that. But thinking that you can get the politic out of the equation at 100%, that's a dream. So, salaries. The base of any job is the salary people receive every month. And I think there is something very complicated here, is that if you build a company that scales around the world, you will discover how much salaries can be unequal from a country to another country. For example, we are opening an office in London right now, and we are hiring people. And I never saw people so obsessed about salaries than people in London. Why? Because it costs so much to live. So it's natural. It's natural that people are, like when you pay £3,000 for a small bedroom, of course you really want to get paid well, because at some point it just represents on and off about your life. We are very lucky in Paris because cost of living in Paris are low. I know saying that is kind of crazy, but if you look around top ecosystem top ecosystem hubs around the world. If you look San Francisco, I think just to give you a number, making 150 a year in San Francisco, it's the equivalent of doing 3,000 a month in Paris. 150, 36,000. So, and that is based only on the meaning of life, like how much it costs to take an apartment, to eat, blah, blah, blah. And so one of the problems with the salary is that if you build a company that grow and scale and build, you have to be really fine about having very, very local policy in terms of salary. So that's, I think, the first bit of very concrete advice. Try to really take care and consideration of the situation of people in your negotiation. And again, I think this kind of inequality are fine and understandable. One story I always give, and it's true, is that when we built the family, Alice and I did not take a salary for 18 months, and Nicolas Colin get paid on the first day. And one of the funny things people always tell us is that, yes, so Nicolas took less equity than you. And at the beginning, I was like, oh, no, and why? Yeah, but you get paid on first day. But yeah, that's a fucking co-funding thing. Because you take care of personal condition. So I think having an open conversation between what it means to join a company and what your personal situation is very important. Some people have personal constraints that will impact directly their salary, and it's your responsibility as a founder to know if that is worth the price or not. So I think one of the ways to make everyone comfortable about that is to be very, very transparent about that. And I think startups need to be aware that the perfect equality around that is not possible. So you have two ways of building that. One way is that you build a framework. Buffer did a really good job at doing that. You have a framework with a certain number of criteria: where you live, do you have kids or no kids, do you have a rent or no rent, blah, 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 I don't remember the criteria they put. And you calculate a formula, and that the formula gives you, for one job, how much you make. It looks great. By the way, the formula is so fucked up that you change it every 6 months. And you always find a loophole in the formula, and you will always have things, but it's fine. If you are on the engineering side, I think it's more than an okay way to do. Then you have the other extreme way to do, is that you tell everything is a negotiation, and you do one-to-one, and you don't have a formula, and you just try to apply the context. It works until a certain point. I don't think that works after 100 or 200 employees. Because just remembering what you told all these people, it cannot be hard. And so at some point, you have to come down to the formula. But I think it's very important to make everyone aware inside your company that on the salary side, inequality is based around 3 forces: personal situation, personal background, and how much the talent is needed. One story I love, and I think it's one, there is one company that, yeah, I will not say the name of the company, but one company in Paris, 1 year ago, they had this huge deadline. So it's a team of 10. It's a very socialist team, let's say it that way. For example, it's a team where everyone makes exactly the same salary. I don't know why, but it's like that. But there are 10. So they are all have the same background. They are all same profile. And they had this deadline that they was sure that they cannot achieve it. So they decided to hire a new person. And let's say they hired more a wing guy, more on the right side of the political spectrum. So when they told him about how they pay people, the guy laughed and said, really, you think that I will make as much as you? Like, okay. So I'm asking 3 times the salary. So he was paid basically what 3 people do. And they accepted, and collectively accepted, because the guy in 2 months did what no one knows how to do in 1 year. And it's a company, and by the way, the company gets sold and blah, blah, blah. It's not Capitaine Train. It's Capitaine Train, they have a very good formula to pay people. Of course, they are engineers. But but here, it really shows that even when you are a hardcore equal, even when you think that happiness comes through equality, sometimes reality go back to your face. And personal situation, personal background, and what you need at that precise time have a lot and lot of impact about how you pay people and how you interact with people. About salaries, you have 3 strategies around salaries. One strategy is to say that you pay everyone below market rate, and you want to attract only people that are passionate. Understand that. It's fine to attract people for passion and not talent. If you say, I want to attract the best people, you cannot pay below market rate. Because if you pay below market rate, it means that you attract people that are so in love for your company that you are fine that they are not the best one. You have 2 views of the world. One view of the world is to say, I pay everyone above market rate because that they like or they don't like, they will be stuck in my company. If you pay people above market rate, you get the best. And the best doesn't mean the most passionate. You know, you have some people that are really, really good, but they can be good with you and good with someone else. They are kind of mercenary. And that kind of spirit is fine because it depends on how much heart you need in your business. Some business need a high level of heart, some business don't. So you have to be very clear on that. But you have to be very consistent. You cannot pay some role. One of the biggest mistakes I see is that, for example, that happened a lot, by the way, in the engineering company, engineer-led company. They pay engineers above market rate and everyone else below. You know what always happens in this company? They fail. You know why? Because everybody else is jealous. If you pay everyone below market rate, it can be unequal. Some people below market rate is more money than the others. Market rate is not an absolute numbers. Market rate is just how much that guy will do outside. Above market rate is meaning that no one can offer a salary that will be equal. By the way, I think the most hardcore company in the world about that is Netflix. So if you go to work at Netflix, there is a game called 20% bonus. It's a very simple game. You go, take a job offer anywhere, sign the job offer, show it to your manager, and you get 20% bonus. Infinite. You can, and you know what? You can repeat every month. Yeah, there is some people at Netflix that double their salary in a year. But the problem is that the game ends up at some point. Because sometimes they say, yeah, no, you are not worth it. Go to the other company. So you take a personal risk. But they are so obsessed about paying people above market rate that they do everything they can to achieve that. So why they do that? Because they want to be an A-player team. They want to tell people, you will never, if you want to go somewhere else, it will be by passion, because it will be a sacrifice. So you will have to think twice, because I will buy your soul. And, you know, everyone say that they are not here for the money, but the problem with salary, and if I can give you a little bit of personal advice, the problem with salary is that people always spend what they make. And it's an infinite. If you watch the movie Margin Call, there is the best movie scene ever about that, is when they are on the rooftop. Who saw Margin Call? Okay, you have all to watch this movie. It's the best movie ever made on finance. And so one guy is on the roof and tells the other guy, is it true you are doing $1 million a year in salary? And the guy replies, yes, it's not a lot. And after he explained him very rationally how to spend $1 million a year, and it makes sense. Yeah, 200,000 on strippers, 300,000 on my house, 200,000 for my parents. What do you want I do to my parents? Do you want I get the money back? Of course they need the money. And no parents need that kind of money, but when you get it, you get used to it. So you can, a lot of companies speak about equity as a way to keep people. Bullshit. Like equity, no one understands what it's worth. Like, I saw people like taking stupid deals on the table because they don't realize what equity means. One of our ex-entrepreneurs failed. He got a job offer between two companies, one a very successful company and one company I don't know. And he wanted to take the other company because the salary was higher. And like, I was like, if you want to speak with me again, take the equity with the higher equity because in 1 year you are rich and the company raised at €1 billion valuation. So it's kind of rich. Because it's so fictional that even if you know that it can worth something, because it's not absolute numbers, you never know when it will be, blah, blah, blah. So it's a good motivation thing. It's a good symbol. It's good to make people rich in an ecosystem, and I think it's important in sharing the value created. But don't think that equity is a way to keep people. You know, only investors think that. Like, it's so funny to have this discussion with investors where they say, yeah, you should equity to keep people, and people don't realize, like, they are not here for that. But paying above market rate, best retention strategy. See, if you want to keep people on long term, just pay them more than anyone else pay them because they don't have any other choice than stay, or really be driven by passion, and that's not very common. So that's a two extreme strategy. You have one strategy in the middle, it's to pay market rate. So the problem with paying market rate, and that's why I think is the worst strategy you can adopt, is that it doesn't stand you in any way. So you don't attract people that are here for the money because you don't pay above market rate. And you don't attract people that are here only for the passion because you don't pay them above market rate. So I know that I have this kind of extremum, never been average. But in this particular case, it's very easy to understand why being in the middle, it's a really bad strategy. Because you have the worst of both worlds and without any of the quality of the both worlds. About salaries, the other problem we have in France is that paying people costs a lot in terms of social security, blah, blah, blah. So increasing salary is hard, and that's why every high-level function are not about salary, but about other form of payment, and especially expenses, things like that. So I will not dig into the detail, but be smart. There is a lot of smart way to give kind of advantage, blah, 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 to make people feel better without increasing your payroll cost for the infinite. So, equity. The other part of a startup is equity, and here again, you have two strategies. One strategy is to give equity to everyone, or the other strategy is to give equity only for top jobs. Silicon Valley is obsessed about giving equity to everyone, even the lowest job inside the company. We know all this story of the masters of Google that did 20 million because she was paid in equity for a massage the first year at Google. It was kind of and she's now a successful business angel, by the way. Because do you know how she do her deal flow? By massing people. Speak about the startup. So how much revenue are you making? Oh, interesting. So can I invest? True story. True story. In France, we have a problem. So it's a bit difficult. And by the way, there is a big gap on that subject about being a French company or not being a French company. We are lucky enough at the family to incorporate a majority of our company outside France. So it solves the problems. But in France, giving equity to people is fucking complicated. It's horrible. And you know, if every time they do a new law, they change it 6 months later. For example, we had like celebrate in the ecosystem the law about action gratuite 1 year ago. They are changing it right now because Carlos Ghosn used that law to be more rich. And so we will all become more poor. It's a great strategy. Yeah, so my advice, if you are building a big company that don't need to be incorporated in France, just incorporate out there and build something to give equity in a country that know what it means to give equity, UK and US. There's only 2 countries that really understand that, is UK and US, so don't over-optimize, So, if you have to be incorporated in France because you are doing something physical, or because your investors are in France, or blah, 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 feel the pain, my friend, feel the pain. I think the best advice I can give you is try to find a way to make that equity understandable in terms of message, because you will never be able to give big numbers, because you can never do things that are complicated. For example, I will give you an example. In the US, in average, you get in equity the double of the salary you make. So let's say you do 100,000 a year, they will give you 200,000 a year in equity. But why they do that? Why they can do that? Because they have something that we don't have. It's called a pool. So the amount of money you give to people is stacked in a pool, and that pool is separate from the common stock and the preferred share. So it means that if things go wrong, the investor gets the priority, then the founder, then the employee. So you can be very generous in terms of equity, because this equity only pay off if things are really, really, really successful. In France, you cannot do that. So it creates an incitation to don't give a lot, because you don't have a lot of space. Because it's not a pool, you have something, for example, 10% to give. And in that case, be aware to don't give it too fast, because what happens is that the first employee are never the best, by definition. So usually it takes time to get great employee. And by the way, like this argument that because you are early, you get more equity is a bullshit argument. You get equity based on your value. Look, Eric Schmidt, when he joined Google, Google was a 1,000 employee company. How much equity they gave to Eric Schmidt? 6%. 6% it was a 1,000 people company. Do you think they was like, oh yeah, Eric Schmidt, we will give you 0.2 because you come so late, so we cannot give you? No, you just give it. But again, you can do it because it's a pool. In France, you will have this horrible struggle about finding a way to do that. So, because equity is just a tool for very long term, I think you should use another tool that is not used enough yet in ecosystem. It's called the bonus. So, little bit of French context. There is a difference between a bonus and a variable. So if you pay, for example, someone on commission, it needs to be based on something very that you can rationalize. A bonus don't need to be rationalized. Don't need to be often. It don't need to be on certain date. It can be totally random, and you can base it on collective milestone. So one of the best mechanism design of bonus is to try to find a way to define a very precise milestone in terms of something you can measure, revenue, blah, 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 and try to collectively align everyone on that. The best example I saw is one of our company. They said, okay, this year, if we do things in the minimum way, we do 3 million of revenue. Our valuation, because we took money from investor, to justify the valuation, we are supposed to do 6 million in revenue. So what they said to their employee that any revenue above 6 million will be shared equally between every employee. And so they finished the year at 12. So that's 20% of 6 million divided by 20 people. That's 100,000 each. So it was a nice day to be at that company. And it's a celebration because it's a milestone. And by the way, next year it will be really hard to get that bonus because now it's maybe at 30 million and they will maybe end up at 24. So maybe they cannot replicate that again. It's fine to have this kind of payday check on very specific milestone because it's the kind of moment where people need to don't count their hours. And the funny thing is that you can think whatever you want, but if they have done exactly the same thing in equity, they will never have this result. Never. Because it's too long term. It's too fictional. It's too irrational. If you do that on a very specific timeline with bonuses, it's very easy to understand. And the funny thing is that you have a team full of engineers that started to think about sales. Because they was like, I don't know, really? There is a game and I can optimize and make money? Yeah, let's do that. How you call that? Sales? Yeah, let's do it. and you see, when you have like a very rational culture, you can get this kind of effect. So, few advice on the bonus. First, never, never, never make them mandatory, and never, never make them personal. I mean, at some point when your company is big, you can do it by team, because you can have different objectives, but don't use that as a way to divide people. Use that as a way to unify people. Use that as a way to cherish and celebrate the collective accomplishment, not the individual. Individual bonus are good for very large organizations when politics is involved and you want to separate good from bad employee. In a company with less than 100 people, you are not supposed to have bad employee. And by the way, having this kind of equal bonus system build the information and people will give you feedback about the people that they think should not receive it. The other thing is that if you build a bonus pool and if you build a bonus plan, make it on something where people can have an action on. Never build a bonus on something where working harder is not sure to produce better result. If you look at sales, why sales is so good for that? Because by definition, if everyone during a year stay 2 hours more at the company, by definition, at equal conversion rate, it means more revenue at the end of the year. So people can have an action, and when people can have an action, they can understand the bonus. For example, don't do very bad bonus. If we raise fund, everyone gets a bonus. That's horrible. It doesn't mean that when you raise fund, you cannot take that as an opportunity to give a surprise bonus. That's the other side of bonus. Bonus that you did not announce before, but that you use as a tool to celebrate some moment. But if you tell people, our goal is to raise in a year 5 million, and if we raise, you make 5,000 in bonus, you can be sure that your company will bankrupt. Because people don't know how to optimize for fundraising. So they will start to get involved in subjects they should not be involved on. They will start to interrogate yourself about subjects they should not interrogate yourself about. They will start to see VCs. I see that. We have a company where every single employee started to go to talk to VCs. Yeah, because you tell them that there is a bonus if they fundraise, so they are like, yeah, I know you are not good at pitch, so I went to see a VC. Like, it's done. Your company is done. Like, the day that happened in your company, where a VC get pitched by one of your employees, and he tried to get him invest because there is a bonus at the end of the year, you can be sure your company is dead. You can be sure of that. So never, never give a bonus on something people cannot have a direct action on based on their hard work. Bonus are used to celebrate hard work, and by the way, never give a bonus on creativity. So that's something that can look really weird, but every studies shows that if you pay creative people with bonuses, they get less creative. It's called the candle problems. You can watch the incredible TED movie, lapsus, TED talk about that. It's called Science of Motivation by Daniel Pink. And in 15 minutes, he will convince you to never do that. They did experiments again and again. If it's not based on something that is based on effort, bonus doesn't work. Because creativity gets killed by external incitation. It doesn't mean that people that have creative function cannot be inside the bonus pool, but they should not be involved in a bonus pool. And again, bonus pools are here to celebrate collective achievement and not individual one. Because if you celebrate individual achievement through bonuses, you will create really, really bad incitation between your team members. Thank you very much. So, questions? Are you happy today, my friend?
Huh?
Are you happy today?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I'm not so happy because you said that the first employee can be the best, and I'm the first employee of my company, so that's
fine.
But yeah, maybe I'm missing a
First employee are not always the best.
Okay. Maybe I'm missing a huge point there, but I never understood why in almost all companies I saw, people who manage are paid more than people who are managed.
That's a good. That's a good point. Should have talked about that. Yeah, it's stupid. Management is a function. It's not a status. In a startup, you have to make everyone understand that management is a function and not a status. And so it means that it's not because you manage people that you can obligatorily get paid more. It's much more subtle than that. Sometimes yes, because your skills are valued more. Sometimes no, because the skills of people working for you are better. But the problem is that you have to find really dedicated manager to believe that in a world where everything tells them the opposite. But that's fine, because that's also what it makes to create a startup. It's about creating your own rules that are different from the outside world. And why they do that in traditional world? It's easy. It's because management is not a function, but it's a status. We don't promote you to manager because you are good at managing people. We promote you manager because you are good at doing what you think. And that's why in every traditional company you have what we call the Peter effect. You get always promoted to your level of incompetency. So you are good at what you do, so you get promoted. You are good at what you do, you get promoted. You are good at what you do, you get promoted. You are bad at what you do, you stay. And then at the end of the day, you have only bad people at their role that rule the company. It's a very serious principle. That's why, because management is not seen as a function. You should hire someone as a manager not because he's the best, but because he's good at managing. Managing is a certain set of skills. By the way, if you look engineering teams, usually is not the best engineer that is good at managing engineers. Because the best engineers, they are good at doing their thing, and they don't have patience to wait that someone understands. So they don't build cohesion. The good managers of technical team are usually people that are good but not the best, and they are very good at aligning every best working for them. So they understand that this guy makes more money than him because, okay, he's managing, but that's a function. It's not a status. The Peter principle is what explains most of the bankrupts of big companies, Kodak included. Kodak is the best example of a company that gets killed by the Peter principle. Kodak went from 60 billion revenue to nothing after inventing the digital camera. I don't know if you know that. You know who created the digital camera? Kodak. So how they bankrupt? By refusing to believe that the digital camera will be ever used by anyone. And why? Peter principle. They promoted so many people that was out of the touch at so high level that they had no idea of what to do.
First employee is not the best, and how to pay him.
Because it's a joke, please
No,
get rid of it. But no, actually, okay.
I am that first.
I will stand with that. No, I will tell you why. Because the best in a job are usually the more rational, and rational people are never the first to jump. Exactly the same, like the best user never use first version of technology because it's too buggy. Best employee are never the one that join the company because it's too buggy. But the problem is the definition of best. What should I say is that the most skilled people are usually not the one that join early. And yeah, of course, you can be really good at starting off things and being an adventurer and a pirate, but just recognize that you are not the best skilled person. And the best skilled person are never the one that join the company at beginning, because the people that join company at beginning are more on the adventurous side. And you cannot have both. You cannot be really highly level skilled and specialist and the best expert in your field and be adventurous in the same time. Because by definition, if you are adventurous, you go from a subject to another. So that's why you have to pay attention to the kind of equity you give to early employee. It should be good enough to make them rich and happy of being there, but you should not give everything to them and then being stuck with not the capability to attract later employee, and especially because this first employee, when the company is big, they leave. So you have the double key school effect. You give too much equity to people that don't stay, and then they leave, and you are like, yeah, but I cannot give you, there is no room anymore. So can you come to work for free? So that's why I was saying that the first employee are usually not the best.
How much is a good equity?
Oh, I will not answer in public to this question. Because I did it once, and every startup in the family wrote me back and fired back at me, so I prefer to keep this conversation private. Do Lion, and we will tell you that in private. Yeah, please.
OUSSAMA, you mentioned the importance of communications, and you also illustrated by a degree of transparency with all the employees in the startup, and also perhaps other types of startups where they may not have that level of transparency. What would you veer towards in a small startup that wants to get going, 10, 20 people, and even up to 100 plus?
So the question is, what?
The question is, what level of transparency should be in a startup?
It's a decision. I don't have the right answer. I believe that more transparency is better for everyone, because I believe that it's better to have conflict early than later. But it's a way of life. I mean, some people live very happy to have conflict later than early. I mean, there is not a right level of transparency. There is a good coherence of transparency. You have to be very coherent. You have to be rational, and you have to, like, people needs to know that you are predictable. Well, you know, in one of the things I learned with Alice in management, watching her, because sometimes I study Alice, my co-founder, is that I learned that being someone highly predictable in reaction make everyone optimize around that. So more extreme you are, more predictable and caricatural you are, and better is for everyone inside the company. So just take yourself and be yourself at most, because everyone will be like, oh yeah, of course, but that... another story, in 2010 or 12, I met an executive at Google, and I told them when they will launch a music service, and the guy told me Sergey and Larry are not in music at all. I love that answer. Like, really, I love that answer. They are so predictable that no one ever bothered to idea of telling them that they should launch something in streaming music, because they know that it will not pinch their interest. So if you can reach that level with your team, you are done. And so transparency is about that. If you are transparent, be transparent. If you are not, don't be. But don't try to be in middle because you read on Buffer that transparency was good. That is the first one-way ticket to the hell.
And you also mentioned about examples of people negotiating their salary.
Yeah.
Is that something you encourage as well?
Again, it's a question of lifestyle, and it's a question of predictability. Same answers. I think, let's take example, you know. For example, Facebook is famous for not letting anyone negotiating. Okay, it's like that. It's their culture. At Facebook, you have 3 offers. One high salary, low equity. One middle, one high equity, low salary. And you can pick one of the 3 offers, and they don't care which offer you pick, because no one internally can know which one you pick. So people are not like, oh, you are good because you take a lot of equity. They are fine with people that need more money on short term, because they are family or blah, blah. And they don't have this negotiation culture. Everyone that tries to negotiate, they say, yeah, but the algorithm determines that your salary is that. So yeah, try to negotiate with the algorithm. Mr. Algorithm, can I get pay mode? No. And that's done. So, but again, Facebook is not a deal-making company. If you look at ourselves, we are a deal-making company. If someone is good at negotiating, it's something we will cherish and celebrate because it's mean. But again, it cannot be fake. Like if someone comes to negotiate because they try to negotiate, it will go hard because you know it's something you have to feel. You have to be confident. It's like sex. It's like no, but I mean it's exactly the same thing. It's like you have at some point. Some people feel it, some people don't. So more you make yourself predictable about what you like and what you don't like, and more everyone will be. There is not such thing more horrible than a manager that has a different style depending on the day. That's horrible. I have a friend that is working for someone that is really harsh, really, really harsh. You know, the kind of people that when you do your job, look you in the face and say, don't you ever stop being stupid? So that's a very usual Monday morning sentence at the office. And I was this weekend, this weekend he had the dinner at my house, and my wife was like telling him, like, how do you do? Like, if someone speaks to me like that, I will kill him. And the guy was like, yeah, but it's so predictable. It's always like that. So you don't care. No one cares. He tells you that, and you say, okay, I did not do good. And it will be, for them, it's exactly the same level of feedback than, oh, you can do better. because it's like that. And people that cannot stand that, they don't join this kind of company. And that's why the team is really looks sparse on people. Because again, it's a question of style. There is not one style to rule the world. I think, you know, when I was in Silicon Valley in 2010, Mark Zuckerberg was starting to be famous in the valley. So everyone was starting to wear hoodies. And one day I told the guy, you know, Mark Zuckerberg did not succeed because of the hoodie. He succeeded despite the hoodie. Think about that. And again, but that doesn't mean that, for example, if I was a young entrepreneur and I cherish Mark Zuckerberg and I want to look like him, it will be fine to wear a hoodie. Because again, role model works also that way. So having your style can be also about copying the style of others. But at least it should be rationalized and disciplined, and you have to really make a decision. What is bad is all these people that don't make decisions. And what is bad is all the people living in the illusion that there is things that are better than the others. Like if you live in this illusion that there is a better way to pay people, a better way to manage, a better way to do anything, you are dead. Because you will see that nothing is really rational and you will end up being Stack Overflow. Because the overwhelm of information and the contradiction of the information all day long will make you crazy. So you have to be at the right level of there is things that are universally bad. Like no one will tell you, yeah, my boss kicked me with a baseball bat every Monday morning. I love that. No, that is universally bad. But out of that, every style has a room.
Que l'enfant